You know, we're always told that being completely self-reliant is a sign of incredible strength. But what if that intense need to do it all yourself isn't really a choice? What if it's a survival skill you learned a long, long time ago? Today, we're going to dive into the psychology of what's called survival independence.
So, let's just get right to it. Is never asking for help actually a sign of strength? I mean, we're taught that it is, right? That depending on other people is some kind of weakness. Well, we're about to challenge that whole idea and look at this from a completely different angle.
Our society absolutely loves the story of the lone hero, the self-made person who pulls themselves up by their own bootstraps. This is the great self-reliance myth. It's this powerful cultural idea that praises being hyper-independent and basically tells us that doing everything alone is the ultimate goal.
Come on, we've all heard this one, right? It's practically a motto, and it really hammers home this belief that relying only on yourself is the smartest, safest way to get things done. But, as we're about to find out, there is a much deeper, much more complicated story behind that mindset.
Okay, so what if we reframed this whole thing? What if we gave this so-called strength a different name? Well, psychology actually has one: survival independence. And that name alone tells you a lot, doesn't it? It suggests this isn't some proud choice, but something that became necessary because of your past experiences. And here is the absolute key difference. On one side, you've got healthy independence. This is where you're capable, for sure, but you also embrace interdependence. You know it's okay to ask for help and to trust others. Then on the other side, you have survival independence. Think of it like a fortress you build around yourself, and its main job is to avoid help at all costs. Now, that fortress might feel safe, but man, it can also become a prison, leading to total burnout and a really deep sense of loneliness.
So, at its very core, survival independence is what we call an adaptive response. It's a defense mechanism. It's your mind learning to just shut down any expectation of support, simply to protect itself from the pain of being let down over and over again. This is so important. It's not a personality trait, it's a protective strategy. But where in the world does a strategy like this even come from? Well, to really understand it, we have to look back. The blueprint for this kind of behavior is almost always drawn up in our earliest years, shaped by the environment we grew up in.
The research really points to two common roots here. First, there's something called parentification. This is when a child is basically forced to be the adult in the room, taking on responsibilities that are way beyond their years. And second, you have inconsistent support. This is when a child learns, the hard way, that they just can't reliably count on their caregivers for help, whether it's emotional or practical.
And this brings us to how the brain actually works. When it's faced with these kinds of early experiences, the mind does something pretty remarkable. It builds a protective shield. It learns a really tough lesson that asking for help is either useless or maybe even painful, and so eventually it just learns to stop asking.
Now, this isn't some conscious decision someone makes. It's a deep neurological lesson. The brain literally rewires its own expectations based on real-world experience. And when support consistently doesn't show up, the brain just concludes, well, looks like I'm on my own, and it adapts to that reality.
And this whole adaptation process happens in a really clear sequence. It starts with a natural, human expectation for support. But when that hope is met with repeated disappointment, the brain's #1 priority shifts. It becomes all about avoiding that painful feeling. And what's the most effective way to do that? Just stop expecting support in the first place. It becomes this unconscious protective loop that just runs on autopilot.
So as we start to wrap this up, it's time to go back to our big question. Is this a strength or is it a scar? Well, the answer is, it's complicated. While it definitely comes from a place of pain, this hyper-independence is also a powerful, powerful testament to a person's resilience, to their incredible ability to endure really difficult situations.
So, if any of this sounds familiar, if you recognize this pattern in yourself or in someone you know, it is absolutely crucial to see it not as a character flaw, but as an incredible adaptive response. It's a sign of what someone has survived, and just understanding that is the first step. The path forward from there usually involves gently, very gently, relearning how to trust, maybe by starting to ask for very small things, just to prove to the brain that, hey, sometimes support can and will arrive.
Which really leaves us with one last big question. If survival independence creates these lonely islands where we feel totally isolated, how do we even begin to build bridges back to other people? How do we learn to trust again and move from a state of just surviving to a state of true, meaningful connection? That's a powerful thought to end on.